be okay.
One of those situations where you want it to be over, but then you don't want it to be over because that means the adventure is over. Like, you want the pain and all these feelings to go away, but you don't want the adventure to be over.
Within minutes, we were just had everything on our bike and we're rolling away, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, here we go. I know everything that's ahead of us, and it's going to be a long few days. I was really, really excited, and especially excited to do with two of my longtime training partners, people, you know, who've gotten me through some of my worst times on the bike and been there for some of my best times on the bike.
It was probably one of the most physically demanding things I've ever done. To ride all day, every day was challenging.
There was so much that happened within those like 3 to 4 days that it's hard to break it down. We started out South Carolina border, rode about 30 miles to Dillard, Georgia. I wasn't expecting to be around so many people. I figured things would like kind of spread out a lot sooner, and it didn't. And that first 30 miles was a lot of climbing, very steep gravel roads that, you know, at the very, very top, you're basically pushing your bike, aggressive, you know, horse trail downhill that's basically has a creek flowing through it before making our way past Patterson Gap, that climb, and into the Tallulah campground. After we crossed Charlie's Creek, but we're just weaving through all these Jeeps. We sort of popped out on the pavement and made our way over to Dix Creek, where the Appalachian Trail passes through. Dix Creek was really, really wet. The creeks had gotten much higher than what they were during our pre-ride. We're about 8 hours in at this point, making our way to climb Wildcat Creek Road. That was well over an hour climb before descending to Unicoi Pike and making our way over to climb Tray Mountain.
Those first few gravel climbs were horrible. I was really dreading that. That was probably what I dreaded the most, was just getting through the first like 3 climbs. After that, I was like, okay, smooth sailing. The rest of the trail is not that bad.
Then it was time for Tray Mountain and Hickory Nut, which was actually kind of fun in the dark, but it was very exhilarating. Monica just ripped it on that downhill, so I could just see her light ahead of me, and then, you know, Susie would catch up behind me, so it was just kind of crazy to make it through that, but it was a lot of fun. Then we made it to Helen before getting started on the Hogpin climb, which is, I think, something like a 9-mile climb. It was so foggy, and it was probably 1 a.m. at this point. You know, we had minimal lights on just to sort of save them to make sure we could make it to Vogel. The descent on Hogpin was actually probably one of the scariest moments. Funny, the paved descent was the scariest moment. Most people would probably say that was the most fun, but eventually we had made it over to Vogel, where we took a quick rest and then got up and started making our way up the Wolfpin Road climb, which felt like it took forever.
I think we were probably cresting Wolfpin by the time the sun was coming up. That was one of the things I was looking forward to, is like riding into the sunrise.
The rest of the Cooper Creek section and popped out onto the pavement, and we were ready to roll up to the Cooper Creek store and get some breakfast. When we got past Cooper Creek, it was, you know, time to get closer to the Aska trails. We made it past Van Zant's store, didn't need to stop there, or Iron Bridge, where you cross the Toccoa. When we got to the Aska trail section, we made it through Green Mountain. We rode quite a bit of that, except for the very last Rudy section, but then we crossed the road for Stanley Gap, and this is where it was exhausting.
Going up Stanley Gap just sucks.
And it was getting close towards, you know, the end of the day. We'd already been riding quite a bit. But we got to Cherry Log and decided to eat the Pink Pig, but we were really close to the Cahata Wilderness when I could not keep my eyes open. This would be a big day, big climbing day. I'm going up Watson Gap, over to the South Fork Horse Trail, which is just muddy and gross, and then back up P0. So you're hitting the terminus of the Pinhoti. Most people don't even know P0 exists, but this is just a climb back up. We had to climb up Mountaintown and Potato Patch before making the descent to Bear Creek. But then we had to climb up P1 before heading over to P2. then we decided to stop at Mulberry, and we didn't want to get sucked in there too much, but we made it up P3. That was very difficult. We had just eaten, it was hot, before making our way over to P4 through 6. And we have a few uphills before, we got at least a little bit of flowy downhill.
The scariest part was definitely the wildcat / boar, whatever we heard at Dennis Mill. Yeah, that was, no, I don't do that.
By the time we got to the bottom of Dennis Mill, it was about to get dark. So we tried to use our roadie legs as much as possible to get to Dalton as quickly as possible. And I think we sort of surprised people at how quickly we made it there when we were in the Taco Bell drive-through line, and we arrived at the Hampton Inn, and it was probably like midnight at that point. I don't know. Next morning, we went through McDonald's drive-through in Dalton before we made our way up Dug Gap Mountain. So we made it to Snake Creek Gap and made it through the flowy rock section. I think we all had a pretty okay time through there.
I mean, I know Dalton. I love riding the Snake.
The Snake wasn't that bad.
So we crossed 136, made the long death march up Horton Mountain. You're pushing your bike after a little bit, even with easy gearing. We finally got on Johns Mountain, which was just so overgrown. It was so exhausting because everything, it was just scraping your like briars scraping your elbows and your arms and your legs, and then the weeds are slapping you. But then it was time to go up Strawberry Mountain, another climb, another mountain, before making our way over to Taylor's Ridge. On paper, it looks like it shouldn't take that long to do, but it's a very physical trail still. I think it was probably about 6:30 or 6:40 a.m. that everyone got to the bottom of High Point, finished the ridge, got down the trail, saw a little kitten. Wish we could have rescued it, but just definitely not in the right condition to do that since we're on our bikes. And we had 50 miles left, and it was very different from the rest of the course. It was just like it was sometimes grassy, sometimes gravelly, sometimes like muddy, and popped out in Coosa, I think. Stopped at a gas station, and basically we all ate, and the 4 of us rolled out of the gas station. But eventually we made our way back to this other section of the Pinhoti, and it felt like it was really flowy and pine needly, not rocky. So it wasn't too bad. We did that. That was after we popped out on Cave Springs and then got some more water there and just enjoyed the little scenery, and before popping onto the Silver Comet and floating our way home and crossed the finish line together, and it felt amazing.
No matter how painful and horrible it was, you couldn't help but be like, I've been riding my bike for 3 days straight in the woods. How cool is that? And even if it hurts, it's still fun.
It's kind of hard to come to the realization that you're done. And it's like we're all going our separate ways. And it's sad. I wanted to cry a little bit. I always remember thinking, this is exactly what I want to be doing at this time, and I'm doing it. I appreciate all these things and these people that are with me.